NHL Opening Night's right around the corner, but the Florida Panthers taking the time to celebrate their Stanley Cup win with a private ring ceremony on Monday. It was the Panthers' first Cup victory in 31 years as a franchise, and CBS News Miami's Mike Cugno was there to take in the festivities.
So the Florida Panthers finally get their championship rings. When they opened the box, it came in. There was a video playing with all the highlights and all the games they had to play to get to this point here tonight. Each ring having a little bit of a personalized message on it. Matthew Tkachuk, his championship belt is actually engraved on the ring. Now, owner Vinny Viola had a personal message for each player as they came up to accept their box. And he told Sasha Barkov, their captain, it's time to go for number 2. I asked General Manager Bill Zito about that. How you turn the page from a ring ceremony and a banner-raising ceremony that's supposed to happen tomorrow night. And he says, you have to. So even though they are going to celebrate this one, their focus is on a third straight trip to the Stanley Cup final. Now, tonight's event was supposed to be held with fans, but the threat of Hurricane Milton changed that, so it was a little bit more of an intimate venue here where they practice. The game tomorrow against the Boston Bruins is still going on as planned, and as I mentioned, they will be raising their first championship banner there in Sunrise.
Mike, thanks. Now the Panthers put last season in the rear view, going for back-to-back titles. Florida currently with the second best odds to repeat. They're at plus 1,000, trailing only the Stanley Cup runners-up, the Oilers, who nearly came back from 3-0 down to beat the Panthers. They're plus 850. Devils, Avalanche, Stars, and Rangers all close behind. And as the NHL season bears down on us, we welcome in CBS Sports hockey analyst and former NHL winger and enforcer Alan May to preview what is sure to be another thrilling NHL season. Alan, let's start with the champs. The Cup tour is concluded. The rings have been handed out. Everybody's had their day with the Cup. And now the Panthers become the hunted. They also aren't the same squad as the one that won the Cup. They were, picked off a little bit after the season ended. How set up are they to repeat?
Well, they certainly have the attitude, and they've got great experience, but one of the things I really worry about with them is, they lost 4 regular forwards, maybe 5, and you look on defense, 3 guys coming back, big 3, but they're missing some players, and it was the perfect blend. And every time you win a Stanley Cup, you have this blend, this mix that, it's luck that you finally got everything that you need. And they're losing some important players. When I look at how well Brandon Montour played there, just phenomenal. And that's going to be a big blow there. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who was a #1 defenseman in Arizona, was a #1 in Vancouver for a while. He comes in and he's a depth defenseman. He played very well, so they had strength in those numbers. Tarasenko's gone. But all of those guys fit in well. They all did a great job. And it worries me that they do have a lot of change. It's not the exact chemistry. It's not the exact same pieces of the puddle, but you know what? Their general manager is kind of a riverboat gambler. I would not be surprised to see him go out there and bolster the team starting around January 1st down to the trade deadline and get the mix that he needs.
Look, the Panthers set the blueprint for the team that they beat in the Stanley Cup final. The Oilers were down 3-0, nearly came back to win it all. Now they got that sour taste, and they got all that impetus to get back to the final and finally get over the hump. On FanDuel, they're at plus 850. They'd be taking out a page of the Panthers book if they do it, with a well-paid Leon Draisaitl, a hungry Connor McDavid, and a playoff experienced squad now. What do the Oilers have to focus on this year to get all the way?
Well, the biggest thing, I think their forward group is better. They added Jeff Skinner, who's going to have depth goal scoring, Victor Arvidsson, more depth scoring, and both of those guys are very fast. So we're going to push everyone down the lineup. Guys are going to be more acclimated to where they're playing. We saw a lot of guys raise the level of their play. I expect those players to come in. Their third line, Henrique, Brown, Janmark, they're all back, and they're all going to be better. They know what they need to do, but what worries me about the Oilers is what do they have on defense? They've got 3 question marks, and it could be 4 if you count Darnell Nurse, who's going to have a great season. They need someone on the second pair to play with them. They're going to Ty Emberton right now, so there's a lot of change there as well. They may have to do something they do not want to do during the season. That's trade one of their big names forwards. It wouldn't be a Draisaitl. It certainly won't be McDavid. But they're going to have to go out and they're going to have to find defensemen, because that is the #1 thing that you have to go a long ways in the playoffs. You can have Connor McDavid, you could have Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux. You've got to have a 6-man unit that can shut teams down, and they are not there yet, and I don't think the Panthers are there right now either.
All right, look, you work in D.C. You know all about off-season champions like the NFL, their team for years were off-season. The Nashville Predators, they might be considered that team in the NHL right now. The Preds landing several monster signings, most notably two-time Stanley Cup champ Steven Stamkos after he left the Lightning. Nashville also nabbing another Stanley Cup champ and Jonathan Marchessault from the Golden Knights, along with a top defenseman and Brady Shea from the Hurricanes. Alan, are the Preds now legitimate Stanley Cup contenders?
Absolutely they are. And the big thing, the amount of depth that they have up front, they were forcing goal scoring, but they've got one of the greatest work ethics in the National Hockey League. They added over 80 goals of offense in just those two players. And I don't think Stamkos has slowed down. He had a phenomenal season last year. Marchessault is an energizer bunny. He's a guy that does everything out there. He plays with a ton of energy, great shot. Both of those guys are phenomenal on the power play. The one big problem they might have is they've got so many guys that are great on the power play. Are they going to have to force guys into positions that they don't normally play? But these guys, they know what it takes. They're champs. They've won. And then I look on their back end. Their defense is better. Brady Shea is a huge get for them. Roman Josi, already one of the top three defensemen in the National Hockey League. I like their size. I like everything. They have excellent goaltending. So they are a legit contender. They need to stay healthy. They've got a work ethic. They've got a style of play that I really like, and that puts them in the top tier for me. And when I look at those other teams that we just talked about, I like Nashville's defense better than the Oilers, and I like them better than the Panthers.
All right, look, the betting odds preseason for Stanley Cup will show you that there is so much parity around this league. We talked about some big teams that are making big moves, whether they're defending champs or the runners-up or Nashville. But what other teams should we be looking forward to watching this season who could make a deep run?
Well, you know me, an off-season Stanley Cup champs, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think the Toronto Maple Leafs, with what they've done on defense and the players that they've added, I always thought that was a problem with them. Every player they played the last 4 or 5 seasons was a legit NHL player. They just shouldn't all be on the same team at the same time getting the ice time they were getting. They've added legit players. OEL is there, and that's going to add depth to their team. They've already got Riley, who's an excellent defenseman. They've got phenomenal forwards, and now they've added a great coach. They've got bigger defense. Stylistically, they played way better last year, but they didn't have the D-men. They've got so many gritty forwards now to go with their superstars. They've got all the key ingredients, and they've got a coach who everyone doesn't realize how funny he is, how engaging he is, one of the great communicators in the National Hockey League. And he's also kind of a badass, so you don't want to get on the bad side of Craig Berube. They've got all the ingredients. Is their goaltending up to it? Will Joseph Woll stay healthy? What will they have to do? It's a tough town to be successful in, but I think the Toronto Maple Leafs are actually legit this year.
All right, actually, I think it'd be really good for hockey if a Maple Leafs made a deep run, even all the way to the Stanley Cup final. Last year, we saw tons of history-making performances across the league. Which players are you keeping an eye on to have even bigger opportunities this year?
Well, I think Austin Matthews, what he was able to do last year and put those numbers up, he's still in the prime of his career. He loves to score goals. At this point, he's a better goal scorer than Alexander Ovechkin. He can score from anywhere. He's got such a deceptive shot. You don't know when it's coming off of his stick. And he just seems to rise up. You remember, when he played his very first National Hockey League game, he scored 4 goals. This guy's legit, and he continues to get better year after year. He trains like a madman. He's got Mitch Marner, who can fling the puck just as good or better than anyone in the National Hockey League. But I think Austin Matthews wants to be in that, in that talk that you have Connor McDavid, that the superstars, he wants to be in that breath all the time. Not just that he's a great goal scorer. He's going to have to do a lot like Ovi, earn his keep. He's going to have to find a way to win a Stanley Cup in his career so he doesn't have to listen to it the entire time. But Austin Matthews is primed. And then you look at Jersey. They collapsed last year. And I think it's because Dougie Hamilton wasn't there. What he's been able to do for them, getting the puck up the ice, getting pucks to the net, scoring goals. He's a huge defenseman. They didn't have him last year. That was a huge hole. And now with the group that they went out, they maybe have the biggest or the second largest defense in the National Hockey League. And this guy's going to be their #1 stud. They had an injury to one of their players, the Hughes brother, Luke Hughes. That's going to hurt them. But Dougie Hamilton is a legit NHL star, and he's going to bring a lot to their squad this season. I think New Jersey is going to be a team to watch as well. They're already 2-0 from playing those games in Europe. They're fast, and now they've got a huge defense that can play rough and tumble, which you need to do in the playoffs, and they've got excellent goaltending. and Jacob Markstrom.
All right, maybe you don't want to jinx it. I'll say it out loud for you. Alex Ovechkin, 42 goals away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time NHL goal-scoring record. We just keep that in our back of our minds if he has a fast start. That's Alan May. We'll be talking to him all season, talking NHL with our CBS Sports NHL analyst, Alan. Great to see you as always. Look forward to a great season. Have fun.
Take care. See you soon.
All right, exciting slate of action for the NHL's opening night Tuesday. Kraken hosting the Blues to kick off Year 3 in Seattle. The reigning champions, the Panthers, hosting their division rival, the Bruins, to start their title defense. Connor Bedard starting Year 2 in Chicago as the Blackhawks travel to face off against the Utah Hockey Club in their inaugural game, all on Tuesday.